How's it going? I'm Ryan. Today I'm going to go over the two trades that I took on QQQ. First trade was a really small loser on some puts. Second trade was calls. It ended up being a nice winner. We'll get into those trades in just a second. We're looking at the daily time frame here on QQQ. Few things I was watching yesterday, or not yesterday, but Friday's high and low, pre-market high and low, designated by those yellow levels, and then some zones that we were watching. We'll jump into we can do an hourly time frame and kind of take a look at that. So coming into today, we'd set this new all-time high last Friday. In the pre-market, we're kind of finding this range between that 436.6 or so and 437.6, so about $1 range between that high and low of the pre-market. We had a supply zone at the high of the day. We had a demand zone that was an area that we rejected on Friday's pre-market and then found support before continuing our move up during the day last Friday. And those were really the levels that came into play today. Going into the day, I wanted to see us either come up and reject off of this zone or just a break out of that pre-market range in general. We can take a look. In the morning, we were a little choppy. We were holding that pre-market low really well. You can see that we tested it right off the open. Didn't quite make it up into the supply zone before pulling back. And we just formed a series of lower highs, but we were holding that same low. So I drew this resistance here and was actually waiting initially to see if we'd get a break and retest of this to look for longs up into this zone up here. We got this 5-minute close here. So you see volume picked up a bit on this 5-minute candle. We pushed up and looked like we might get a breakout of that resistance. But right at the last moment, we got pushed back down and closed within that resistance as well. So I was watching for a 5-minute close above that and then wanted to see a pullback and hold similar to what you see here. I did not enter a trade here, even though I was watching for this scenario to happen. Wish I did, because we got a really nice move out of there, from 437 to 438.2 without a single pullback. So a $1.20 move, really nice move once we broke out of that consolidation in the morning. I did not enter a trade here just because I didn't get the setup that I was really looking for. I wanted to see a breakout, come back, retest, and that would give me my entry with a pretty minimal risk. What I was looking for was for us to come down and maybe potentially test this zone that we were in here, that we were holding, in which case I would have a very clear stop, maybe below this wick here, or just a breakdown below that pre-market low since we were holding that so well. That was kind of my game plan. Like I said, didn't quite happen as I was hoping, so I did not take this trade, which would have been a really nice trade. The first trade that I did take were, I took 2 puts at the retest of the previous high a day, so Friday's high of day, and the previous 52-week high. Reason why, yes, we did get a breakout here, but you can see that we had an increase in volume. So volume was increasing as we were pushing up into this supply zone. But if you look at the size of these candles, they get progressively smaller. So this candle is slightly larger than this one's slightly larger than this one's slightly larger than this one. So as volume was increasing, we see those candle sizes decreasing and we start to get these upper wicks. We even had that upper wick on this one, a little bit on this one, a little bit on this one, and so forth. So my thought was that we got this breakout. We were probably going to have a pullback. We see volume increasing, but we see that bullish momentum decreasing, if that makes sense. We were making higher highs, but those candles were getting smaller and less bullish. Now, I was wrong on this trade. I did take a small loss, but we can also take a look at the 2-minute here and kind of see that play out as well, where we see as we push up into this area, kind of the candle body getting smaller, having a longer upper wick here. After this, I'm trying to think. I think I took puts right here when we actually tested that previous high. We pushed down, and once I saw these wicks forming and holding that pre-market high, I figured that we might see that momentum continue. So I had 2 contracts. I actually sold one on the test of the pre-market high. Is a very small win, but I wanted to de-risk because I didn't at this point. Once I saw us test this level twice and push up, didn't really want to hold that, as I saw that we weren't necessarily getting the reaction that I was hoping. And I entered this trade potentially a little too early. So the confidence that I had maybe was not as strong as I'd like. So I took one position off for a very small profit when we came down on this candle here after seeing the reaction on this. Took one off and then held my other as a runner to see if we did maybe get a fake out and push back down. That runner was stopped out here for a small loss. So overall, super small loss on this, especially because I took a small profit on one contract, small loss on the other. I was down a couple dollars. The second trade that I took, which was a much better trade, and I had wished that rather than take this trade here, I would have just waited and sized up on the second trade that I took. So the second trade that I took was calls. I took them on this candle here after, well, I took one contract. So I took a single call after we printed this 2-minute candle here. Reason being, it was a supply zone. It was Friday's high. It was an area that we rejected out of. We broke through it pretty strong, came back, retested it, and held it on the 2-minute with that hammer. We also held it on the 5-minute, so we'll pull that up. And you can kind of see we had this forming on the 5-minute as well. So 5-minute, 2-minute, both aligned. We retested that zone, held it, looked solid. You can also see that we had that increased volume on the move up. We had decreasing volume on the pullback into that zone. So it was looking like there wasn't actually much selling pressure and that we were still in had bullish momentum. So, and I'm not gonna, well, I'll throw it on real quick. We had the EMA, moving average exponential. We'll throw that on there on the 5-minute. So we also had the EMA as support as well. So that was another reason why I took this, is we had this EMA down here. And we didn't quite get to it, but you can see that we were holding it, and that gave me confidence as well to stay in this. Because I did enter somewhere in here, it took about 15 minutes or so for that trade to play out. I took profit once we broke high a day. So I had a single contract, and I'll remove that EMA real quick. I had a single contract, and I took it off on this candle here. So it was 438 call. My stop was a break down below this pre-market high, or if we just were looking weak in general, I was kind of watching that EMA and this pre-market high is kind of my area for a stop. So if we started pushing down and breaking below those, I would have got out. Luckily that didn't happen. It did take a little while for this trade to play out. Like I said, I entered here at 9:04. I exited at 9:24, so 20 minutes, not a super long trade. But yeah, we kind of bounced around. SPY was looking really strong at this point. SPY was actually making new all-time highs while we were still trying to consolidate here. So when we did push up and get that break above high a day, I sold. So from 437.85 or so is where I entered to 438.35. Solid 50-cent move or so. Not the most crazy, but like I said, I wish I hadn't taken this trade. I wish I took two contracts here rather. Took one on that break a high a day and then held a runner because we pushed up another another 60-70 cents from there. So those contracts ran really well, and I only got a small percentage of that. With that being said, that was over a 30% win on that contract that I did take. So pretty happy with the second trade of the day. First one was probably a little premature. Probably didn't have the confirmation that I would have liked to take that trade. But with that being said, the second trade was a setup that I was looking for and happy with how it came out. So glad with how the second trade was executed. The first trade was a little meh, you know, we can avoid that next time. We are looking at the 2-minute chart, and I do just want to go back to this consolidation. So we did get the break and retest on the 2-minute. You can see us kind of holding that trend line here. But I wanted to see it on a higher time frame. I've been faked out on the 2-minute when you get a breakout on the 2-minute and then it just reverses. And once I saw this 5-minute candle here, you know, push up and then close back below, I think that made me a little hesitant to jump in there. So that would have been a really nice move to capture that. But I'm happy with just getting calls on the retest of the previous high. You know, that supply zone that we broke out and retested, that's a trade that I want to take every single time. So could have squeezed out a bit more from that if I had runners. So I think lesson to be learned today is to just be patient. You know, I was patient all morning and then took kind of a questionable trade here after waiting, you know, an hour 15, hour 20. What's another, you know, 10 minutes to wait for actual real setup. So could do without the first trade. Second trade was solid. I like that every time. And I think it also just goes to show that, you know, why did I size into this trade and then keep one contract here? I don't know. You know, it's things to improve upon. But nonetheless, we came out of the day with a win, and green overall, kept our losers small, let our winners run a little bit, and starting the week off right. Hoping to continue that momentum throughout the week. We did get a pretty big sell-off, and I had this zone here which really wasn't respected much, so I think I might have to revisit what I was looking at here. I thought with this big rejection off the pre-market, this break and retest before higher highs during the intraday, I thought that would be a pretty good zone to watch. It looks like it was a little bit off. I think, you know, you could argue for a zone up here in terms of bounced, broke below, retested, sold off. That zone is more valid, or even, you know, something down in here where we had this rejection, another kind of rejection, and broke through, even though this wasn't quite really a rejection, more just consolidation. So I'm going to remove that. I'm going to kind of reevaluate. I'm still trying to figure out these supply and demand zones. I'm drawing them off the 30-minute and really using those to determine momentum and look for break and retests. And just trying to get trades where, you know, we have a bigger price swing. So taking higher probability trades and bigger winners, ideally. That's all I have for you. Thank you very much. SPY and QQQ both made new all-time highs today before kind of pulling back. So similar charts on both of them. If we just switch over to SPY real quick, you can see SPY had an absolute crazy day. Yeah. The zones worked a bit better here. You can see kind of got that rejection, broke up, came down, tested, quick bounce, fell through, found support in this zone, reject off this zone, right back down. So I think my zones on SPY were maybe a little bit more accurate than on QQQ today, but I did not trade SPY. Last week, SPY was not moving as well as QQQ, so I was kind of sleeping on it, but today it really woke up and really made a big move. So continue to chart them both, continue to create zones and set alerts, and try to capture some of these really nice moves that we've been having. That's all. Thank you for watching. I do trade live Monday through Friday, so stop by, say what's up, feel so inclined. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Peace.